republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please sit down. Alex, can you roll call, please?
Yunmen,
Present?
Agnieszka Garcia,
Present.
Sue Chung,
Here.
Ellen John,
Present.
Kevin Lim, Rebecca Lee,
Here.
Anthony Kim,
Here.
William Kim,
Present.
Charlie Shin,
Here.
Dr. Cirillo,
Present.
John McCann,
Here.
Eliana Dela Cruz.
Okay, statement of presiding officer. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PM 1975, I hereby state that adequate notice of this work session has been provided to the public by a written notice dated January 15, 2023, date of published the notice. The meeting notice has been 1. Emailed to all staff members at the district's 3 school locations. 2. Communicated to at least one of the board's designated newspapers. 3. Filed with the borough clerk of Palisade Park. Now, we are going to review and discuss resolutions to be voted at the regular meeting, okay? So now, first we'll start with the Finance Committee. William Kim, please.
Yeah, there's section K of the agenda. There's 18 items for us for approval today. I can go through it briefly, but I think any details Dr. Cirillo will have. Number 1 is it's an agreement for transportation that ultimately saves the district money. Tuition reimbursement for a teacher, food services, student activities, financial reports, transfers. Number 8 is a salary adjustment for one of the teachers that has additional credits that she obtained and is eligible for a raise. 9, performing arts. We're working with the Bergen PAC for 1-hour classes, 12 1-hour classes for the special needs students. 10 is just payroll. 11, bill list. 12, there's a climate change pilot grant for $6,660. I believe the schools are doing some interesting things for indoor gardening and other climate change related items. 13 is the budget resolution, which also contains a change in the T&E travel and expense related reimbursement policy. 14 is reimbursements for the Texpo conference for various staff. 15, it's 10 flat panel TVs from MRA, and this is coming for Title IV funds, I believe. 16 is for an authorized signer change, in addition, adding, I believe, the board president and removing 2 previous signers. 17 is also for 2 teachers for additional training, also coming from title funds, Title II, I believe.
That's correct.
And then 18 is for the acceptance of preschool education aid funds of $1.333,170 million. And that would be for 90 general education full-day preschool students.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim. Any other questions on that?
I just have a question as to item 9, for the 12 1-hour classes. Is the total cost $500 or is it $500 per 1 hour?
Total cost.
Total? Okay.
Total cost.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item number 1,
Yes.
the contract with SJC Was there any agreement for the amount too?
So until we know how many students, we have to first enter into an agreement with the provider. Then they will go out to bid for each route, because all the students go to different locations for out-of-district needs.
Right.
Based on those routes, we would have bidders, they don't send them to us. They send them to the South Bergen Jointure Commission, who then advises the school district, and we would have to do a formal resolution individually for the routes. So right now, we are just contracting with the South Bergen Jointure Commission for next year, for 23-24 school year.
So we don't know whether the amount or like the rate will be increased or not.
I'm
compared to
gonna
last year's.
assume, that the rates will go up. As we know, the transportation, industry is in high demand. The drivers, everyone is seeking additional funds, but it doesn't mean we are agreeing to any amount tonight. All we are doing is memorializing that vendor, the South Bergen Jointure Commission, who works with, I would tell you, majority of Bergen County schools,
Yeah,
is going to help us solicit the transportation needs.
yeah, I'm not talking about the justification of that contract. I just want to know how much the burden, okay, in the amount we would have compared to the last year or this year. So you don't know that
Yeah,
yet.
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, so could we know later if you,
Absolutely. Upon receiving any route, we can prepare a spreadsheet of year-to-year comparison, last year to what the new rates would be. And of course, before approval and recommendation, I would share that with you all.
okay, thank you. And item 13, the tentative budget resolution. Is there any way we could know the details of this resolution for this amount? We just see the total amount here, okay?
Yes.
So, I think it's very natural that
So,
we ask
sure,
to
the
see
only
the
thing,
details.
yeah, of course, the only thing I can share with you tonight, because this is not the budget hearing, the budget hearing we would have to schedule, and that's when we discuss our whole budget, and the needs assessment. We speak to, lines, we speak to, categories that have seen increases, state aid that sees increases, but this budget is calling for a 2% tax increase on the local tax levy. That's it. We are going up 2% locally as permitted by law and statute.
Okay, and, I have one more question.
Number
Actually,
11,
several more, yeah.
we have more?
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Okay, for like the tentative, the budget travel and related expense reimbursement,
Yes, sir.
it is now $10,000, like, what was before? Is this increased amount than before, or is
No,
the
so
same amount?
there are very few changes on the travel and expense related reimbursement. I think the most noted change here is something that I firmly believe is going to be very beneficial to all of our faculty and staff members. There is now permission to go with Title II funds. Grant money can pay for professional development. If any of our teachers sought approval to go to a workshop, the
Okay.
cap was $150.
Okay,
Anything up beyond the $150 threshold, the onus was on the teacher to pay the difference out of their own pocket. We have received, and we are formally memorializing tonight, that effective April 15th. And the reason I picked that date is there are no workshops that have been approved until that date that have been spent out of pocket. So teachers, if approved at the building level, at my office by me, and by the board, there are 3 levels. Teachers will no longer be paying out of pocket for professional development.
okay,
The town taxpayers will not be paying either. This comes from a grant that is permitting us from Title II to pay for professional development.
okay, so this $10,000 amount is not new, it's
That
the
is
same
not new.
amount as previous?
That is correct. And I
Okay.
believe that was approved at the reorganization in January, Mr. Shin. There are just some transparency, for purposes of being clear and concise. There are stipulations here that are, very closely worded to our statutes, NJSA 18A, New Jersey statutes, and the administrative code, which is 6A. So what we did here, in preparation for a submission to the county, we only, wanted to be more transparent and align it with our statutes and codes.
Okay, as far as subject to the state rules and the
Absolutely.
no changes is fine to me, okay?
Thank you.
And the number 16, authorized signer, okay, the chairman just added to the authorized signer, and I don't know who else would be the signer, except for the Mrs. Min and the BA, and who else the signer?
There are no other signers. As per the audit that was just conducted, although we have yet to have our audit presentation, we have our findings from that firm. And regardless, if they found that to be a concern, that they wanted the board president to be a signer, we acted upon it immediately. So Ms. Min and Alec went to PNC. She is now, as the board president, a signer, as per the recommendation of the audit. That is not official yet, but it's going to be official as soon as they're ready to present to the board.
So the previous chairman was.
He was not a signer.
He was.
It was never brought to our attention that the board president should be a signer. This was a new finding and a recommendation by the audit firm BKC.
Okay. I thought the chairman new chairman is the signer, the old chairman was there too, so he should be removed naturally.
No, he was not,
automatically,
he was
right?
not on it.
But it is new finding.
I don't think he's signing many checks, Dr. Matarazzo.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Okay.
There was a question here. Number, I'm sorry, number.
Number 11, so this was, seems like the bill is a little higher than last month. Was it, what was?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, Ms. Chung, on the bill list, actually, Alex, you can actually speak to, Ms. Chung's point is the bill list is actually a little bit higher. It's actually a lot higher. But there were two major payments in the bill list that I think was on, did you share it in the drive with everyone?
I did, yes.
So I believe the two big payments were that the HVAC projects have begun, and that they both are, because there's a payment plan, two of the three vendors have already submitted for their first payment. They have already begun work in two of our buildings, so they are entitled to payments, and that's why that number. Alex, do you have the amount that the payments are?
But that was in the Google Drive file?
Did you share this bill list in the Google Drive with the board members?
I'm sorry, I
Sure,
didn't
the bill
see
list
it.
with the finance
Maybe
committee.
I have to retrieve.
Oh, okay,
that.
so I apologize. With the finance committee, it was not in the drive. But I can show you, Ms. Chung.
And those are coming out of our, not coming out of our general account. Those are coming
So
out
for
of
the
our-
record, being that it wasn't in the drive, and I apologize, I stand corrected. H&S Construction and Mechanical, there is a payment for $113,680. Facian Mechanical Contracting, there is a amount of $27,773. Now, as you all remember, these two payments are coming from our ESSER funds and from our coronavirus relief accounts. So this is not general funds. We are exhausting all of our coronavirus relief first, and then we will tap into our maintenance or capital reserve funds. I can show you this, I'm sorry. I thought this was in full. That's why it's so high. You can take a look at it.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I wanted to just clarify if I understood well,
Sure.
about the number 13, is relevant to the one Mr. Shin just stated.
Yes.
About the 10,000, for the whole staff and the board members for travel to reimbursement projects. So it's example, for example, if we, for school year, let's just say, for example, if the doctor like, Cyril use like 9,000 for your travel, then the
Don't
rest
tell
of
my wife.
Okay. Or not.
Where is
10,000
the-
we
where
have
is-
to share or other.
So where is the 10,000 coming from? Because I've heard that, yeah, I've heard that twice now. Where's the $10,000 number coming from?
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Oh, I don't see it. I don't know.
Because
So
that's
there's-
different from the policy, I see it's what, for one person, it's like 1,500 annual due, annual
So I think
maximum.
that's the travel policy, is that not?
I'm confused.
So
Very
there's a
confused.
travel policy and there's professional visitation, that might clarify it. So professional visitation, if a teacher goes to a workshop, that is going to allow for them to come back and turnkey something, That doesn't count as travel policy, that counts as professional visitation. That's what I'm referring to when I say they can exceed the $150 now,
I see the 10,000 now.
in the policy or in?
No, it's not, it's
It's
in
the annual
travel
match.
and related expense reimbursement, it's the last one, right above 14.
I see it, thank you. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education includes in the tentative budget, travel and related expense reimbursements in accordance with. So the reality is, if it's a administrative code, that is the law, that is the regulation. We cannot exceed $10,000, but it sounds like a maximum expenditure of $10,000 for all staff and board members. So once we cap at $10,000 on professional visitation, there is no other. But this,
So-
again, is talking to travel.
Okay, so that doesn't mean, like, participating in the workshops,
That does not mean workshops.
just travel?
That's correct. Because when you think about it, Ms. Chung, I think Mr. Kim spoke to item number, was it 17, Bill? 17, we have 2 professionals going on workshops that are 3 days in duration that would already be totaling over 3,000. So if 2 workshops were 3,000, I do not believe the code would limit any school district to only 7,000 more. So the travel reimbursement would be at 10,000. The professional visitation does not necessarily have a cap. It is the limitation of the school district, again, upon approval by the 3 layers, school, superintendent, board of education.
So when you mentioned about 150, like,
Yes.
that was for the travel?
That was not for travel,
It's for the
Visitation.
regular visitation?
visitation, yes. Staff development workshop.
But what about the things in Atlantic City that was on the bid in January, like?
That would be, so travel, Atlantic
That's
City,
travel, okay.
reimbursement for tolls,
Uh-huh.
hotels, lodging,
Okay.
would be travel.
That's a travel, okay.
Yes, the actual workshop,
Okay.
well, being that we are part of New Jersey School Boards, we don't pay for workshop.
Right, okay.
Some districts do.
Okay.
But if I went to Expo last month
Right,
for a conference, there's a part of that payment that goes to travel,
okay,
there's a part that goes to the actual conference.
okay.
The conference was paid out of Title II, is that correct, Alex?
Conference, yes, Title II.
And the other portion of the payment, reimbursement, as per the contract, is coming from travel.
So those are the events that were held in the Atlantic City is for today's travel thing, right? Travel policy.
Again, it's not only specific to Atlantic City, we have
Right.
case managers of special education children that travel to the schools,
Right,
that would also count in travel.
right, travel, like, such as conventions.
Yes,
So
most
that
common.
has to be like no less than 10,000.
correct.
Okay.
No more than 10,000
Okay,
travel
thank you.
only.
for travel,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Okay? No problem.
And what is the employee contributions will not be limited to 100?
So in the past,
Yeah.
or at least until April 15th, employees, teachers would be paying anything additional to $150. I am trying to seek approval tonight that they no longer have to go into their pocket to pay the difference for a
Okay,
workshop.
That's the one that you mentioned about SR funds.
Yes. Not
Oh,
ESSER,
no, not
Title
SR fund,
II.
but Title II
Title
fund.
II.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, number 18, the ECC budget, 1.3 million something,
Yes, sir.
that's for 90 students, right?
Yes, sir.
So if we increase the classrooms and accommodate more students, we can get more, right?
So, and for the record, I don't want to give false hope or put the cart before the horse here,
Mhm.
but we've already started our registration for pre-K for next year.
Okay.
We are already at a wait list.
Mhm.
The pre-K program fills up before you know it. I've already reached out to the state, because when we filled out our 5-year application, we said we knew facilities was a concern. I was hoping by now we would be doing construction.
Mhm.
Clearly, that has yet to be done. With
Yeah.
that being said, I have visited locations, as I've mentioned publicly. I think we have a location that might be amendable to our needs.
Mhm.
I don't want that to be the answer. I want us to do construction. I want to do renovation. We've talked with the finance committee, we talked with buildings and grounds, I've been in communication with the town. The hope is, Mr. Shin, that we can add additional students and receive additional money from the state.
Yeah, that's the reason I'm talking about.
Fingers are
this,
crossed.
okay, yeah. Because we just talked over, okay, over and over, but nothing happened yet. But now is the time actually we have to move something. Yeah.
We need to move quicker than now. We are at 90 students in September of 2023.
Yeah.
In September of 2024, we have to have 180 students.
Yeah.
That is doubling the enrollment. We need 6 more classrooms for pre-K.
Okay. Right. There's no time to waste
Thank
anymore.
you.
Okay. So it's time to move on actually to make something for
I-
the next years.
We discussed this yesterday with the council liaison. I think Mr. Kim, I thought I saw him. Thank you, sir. And I believe I am going to the borough on the 20th.
20.
Fingers are crossed.
Okay, any other questions?
Just make sure, I'm sorry, just add one more question to what I just previously asked. So Title II fund, there's no possibility that we will run out something, so this.
Yeah, there is a possibility. There's always a possibility we can run out. What I can share with you though is that in all of my years as superintendent, we have not exhausted all of our funds in Title II. With that being said, state funds, if not used in its entirety, can carry over, but there's a 20% penalty on that. The state takes back 20%. It would behoove us to use those funds before we tap into our own local funds. So I am confident and will keep a running record. If we are nearing the end of those title funds in Title II, clearly we would have to think more closely about approving such requests or utilizing internal funds from our general funds. You're welcome.
Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to buildings and grounds. Anthony Kim, please.
We have 5 items to go through. I believe Mr. Strilio will go through on the regular meeting.
So before we move on, are there any questions on buildings and grounds? These are all straightforward.
Any questions?
Yes. The number one, the taekwondo demonstration.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's just out of curiosity. Okay, this gym is located in Fairview. Why don't they use the Fairview School gym or auditorium than use ours? And also the second question is, okay, how many the peoples are expected to this demonstration? Okay, do you know? And did they submit the numbers of peoples attending here?
Sure, so I believe I can answer the first part to your question. Relationships are critical to, I believe, what we do on a daily basis. Part of why this Fairview United Taekwondo comes back to Palisades Park is, this is a former student of ours, a former student of mine, that now is running that Taekwondo. She obviously holds Palisades Park Junior Senior High Schools near and dear, and I think it's an opportunity that we pay it forward. With that being said, we always abide by the fire code officials' numbers. Because there are different groups and different times, Mr. Shin, they never, ever go beyond a couple hundred kids, because parents are always part of this. So each,
I'm sorry, can I interrupt?
please,
It's 150 total, but they're not. gonna
throughout the
be
whole
in-
day,
Yeah, they're
Correct.
in groups, but the maximum will be 150 participants.
throughout the whole day.
So 150 is okay with the capacity of the gymnasium.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think you said, oh, that was it, right? You said, why don't they use Fairview? I think I answered that.
Okay, one more, I'm sorry to bother you, but
Not a
this is
bother.
why I am.
You're on
okay,
California
please
time, you're not
understand,
bothering me.
Okay, what is the Sheridan event? Can you explain a little bit?
Of course. So annually, the Borough of Palisades Park has a request to use usually a parking lot area. So the area requested is Lindbergh Elementary School parking lot. It's for residents of Palisades Park. If they have bulk, documents that require shredding, they can bring it and they can shred it free of charge.
See, just FYI, in my Portland, they do it twice as well.
Do that? Yeah.
Yeah, same event.
It's a nice opportunity to work in
It's
collaboration with the
outrageous, yes.
municipality.
Other questions?
Mr. Cerulli, number 5.
Yes, sir.
there's no, time frame on that one.
Yep, to be
The,
determined is the time. Usually the national night out in the past, has been like 5 PM until
6
9,
p.m.
Right.
Yep.
6 to
Yes.
10. Until I have that confirmed, I will obviously get back, and that is just, again, a use of facility.
Okay, other questions? If not, we'll move on to personnel. Any extra, Garcia?
Yes, they are, 10 items, on personnel. You can review them individually. I don't know if you want me to read through each one, but it's, upon the recommendation of the superintendent on personnel matters.
Questions? No questions. Okay, let's move on. Curriculum, Rebecca Lee.
There is 7 items on the agenda. They're all field trips with different grades. Number 1 is the, work-based learning class. That's taking a field trip to the police department. Number 2 is the AP psychology. They're going to the Museum of Illusion. The number 3 is the advanced band, going to Lincoln Center and Hard Rock Cafe in New York City. Senior pool party for the seniors, before they graduate, and then, senior class trip is number 5. Number 6 is the, Korean 3 and 4, I believe, they're going to New York tomorrow. And the agenda has been changed a little bit, so that's why it's presented again. Number 7, it was presented last month as well. It was Jackal's game, it was Boulder's game last month, and now,
Jackals
it
last
was
month,
Jackal's
Boulders
last
this month.
month, and then now
A
it's
lot of
Boulder's.
baseball happening.
Yeah, and then I guess there was a mistake, it was 5th grade instead of 6th grade, but now it's 6th grade with the Boulders.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Lee. Any other questions?
Yes, as she mentioned, some of the program is for tomorrow, okay? And today is 15th, and to do this tomorrow,
No,
everything
it was
is.
passed last month,
Okay.
they just changed like a little in their
The
schedule.
agenda.
Okay.
So we approved this at last month's meeting, the field trip request.
Mhm.
What has changed, Mr. Shin,
Yes.
is the destination. So now it's a different Koreatown Market restaurant. We just want to memorialize that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? If not, next one, negotiation, Steven Lim.
Yeah, negotiation, there is no agenda for resolution.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lim. Next one, policy, any Garcia?
We only have one item on policy, and that is an update to bylaw 9250. It speaks similarly to what we discussed already under finance. You all have a copy of the bylaw 9250. It speaks to expenses and reimbursements, and the only changes are in bold, and it's basically what we've been discussing, which is prior approval being required in writing by the superintendent and the board for travel expenses. And that would also be effective April 15th.
Okay, any other questions?
So with the maximum travel budget, so this part, whole parts are kind of added, right? It wasn't recommended.
So the only edits on here were reflective of, again, any updates on NJSA, that's the statutes, and NJAC, which is the administrative code. We are just being fully transparent with
Right.
what the code and the regulations are.
So there's a regular, how do you determine what's the regular, travel policy?
That is determined by the Department of Transportation and Department of Education. We don't determine those numbers. And that's a flat rate with the whole state of New Jersey.
So what's the regular business that are not required for the pre-approval? I'm a little confused with this.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
So this travel only for the which district board of education approval is not required?
Which section is that?
It's
For the
federal
max
safety.
travel.
The maximum travel budget?
Yes.
In the budget.
So just so we're clear, I believe she's referring to pursuant to 6A, blah, blah, District Board of Education may authorize in its travel policy an annual maximum amount per employee for regular business travel only, for which District Board of Education approval is not required. The annual maximum shall not exceed 1,500 and shall be subject to the approval requirements in NJSA 18A. So what was the question is,
So, let's use this example like of last year. The reason in December I brought this issue is because, I've went through all the, workshops throughout the whole year without pre-approval. But in the December, I was stopped for one workshop that I need pre-approval, so that confused me. That's why I brought that issue on December about this policy. And then, so what if I wanna go to any workshop that I need just pre-approval?
Do you know, again, I don't wanna speak to what happened in December, but I believe December required there was a fee associated with the workshop. Do you know if any of the previous workshops were
Yeah. I
they
do.
free or was there
No,
payment?
that was, like, it varies, depends on the workshop, 75 to 200. So I was never been asked prior approval.
Because I know during COVID, many of the workshops were all online and many of the fees were waived.
Okay.
So I know the one in December, I believe that was the school law forum or the fall
Right,
law.
forum.
I believe it was $299.
Right.
So again, I don't wanna speak for the board or if council has any suggestion.
Because I replied back that what if I just pay for the rest of portion, but I just want the business administrators register for me and.
I think the issue was the timing, if you remember. I think that you had requested that, I remember being in my office and we talked about, potentially paying for it and then seeking, reimbursement upon board approval. But again, unless the board approves any expenditure, it wouldn't have been my recommendation. That's beyond my purview here.
Yeah, but
So,
you,
I wouldn't recommend a board member to go to a workshop.
right.
So if she wanted to go to a workshop,
and was it professional, was it development for
The board of education.
for the Board of Education? I guess that's the question, if it's,
Was it-
if
was
it's
it-
illegal and that's not under the purview of what the board member's doing, then that's a choice, a personal choice,
Right,
correct? So I don't know if the board, you would
I would have to
direct.
look, I would have to look what the forum was. If it's a legal forum for attorneys, then that would not.
It was for the attorney and the school administrator and the board members, all of them.
Do you have a,
Yeah, I have a flyer, I
can
can
you
send you over to
can
you.
you send it to me and I'll take a look at it?
Right.
Because it would not be considered professional development for a board member to go to a legal conference. It could be professional development for an attorney who is, say, staffed attorney. It wouldn't apply to, someone like myself. So if it's not, if there's a thing for school board members to go see Picasso paintings, it would definitely, that's a clearer line, right? You can see that that's not, nothing to do with school board. But a school board legal forum, I'd have to see,
But that was
the
sent to the
content.
all
I would
board
have to see,
members
I would have to see the content, but the important point is that you would still need approval. If it wasn't based upon the recommendation of the chair, of the superintendent. Based on,
just for clarification, that still wouldn't be my recommendation.
Right, it would be submitted to the board
It
for
would be
approval,
submitted
and
to
it-
the, right.
Right,
It
and I
would be
think there may,
submitted to the
if I
board.
understood correctly, there was a timing issue
What?
as to whether or not approval could be obtained.
Yeah, that I don't know.
I don't, that's what I think I
If
gathered from here.
if that goes to your agenda,
Right.
you need 48 hours notice, so.
Right, and then a board member cannot register, or it has to be the business administrator.
Well, it depends upon what the conference requires.
Yeah, most of them actually.
If the conference requires the
I-
registration go through the school administration, then that definitely would have to be a 48-hour notice to be put on the agenda. Now, you know, it is not a uncommon practice to say, you know, you could go, but it's not guaranteed, that you're gonna be reimbursed. And that would require a vote afterwards. For example, if we have to, have a resolution, say, to investigate an employment matter, okay, that's time sensitive, you know, we would definitely, the superintendent would call me and say, this happened, and I would say, well, we have this amount of time, and we have two options, to call an emergency meeting. The question is there anything to report in an emergency meeting? The answer would be no, we have to do an investigation first. And so that would, you know, it's not uncommon to get approval later, but it's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee. Is that clear? I'm trying to come into the middle of the discussion from last year.
I'm clear with what you say, but I'm not really clear about what's.
Well, I think this is just clearly defining the statutory
Right,
requirement.
it is right, it's in compliance with the current statute.
Yeah, right, I read
It's also
that.
in effect, I believe,
Okay,
April
I agree.
15th,
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
can't really redress what's happened in the past. It's hopefully going to
Okay.
prevent issues like this coming up in the future. That's the goal of the policy.
Right. Well, this is statutory, so.
Right, this is, right.
This is, there's no ambiguity here. I think the way it was written before created some ambiguity,
That's why we wanted
Right,
to be
that's
more
why it's the,
transparent.
cause I looked at it, in the notes, you know, it's also giving you, even though there's no ambiguity, it's actually giving you more flexibility too. The way you're amending it, it's better in terms of flexibility.
Okay.
Am I wrong? Is that what you-
No,
what
that is
you're
correct.
saying? Okay.
That's the purpose behind this.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, the field trip, the New York Korean Society field trip.
Yes, sir.
The reason I confused was, okay, last year's, the agenda was, that field trip was for third and fourth grade, okay? But now you changed that
It's
twelfth grade.
Korean 3 and 4.
Now, Korean 3 is the level, sir.
Yes.
The level, the course number, Korean 3,
Hmm?
Korean 4 is the level. So it's mostly only high school students. Third and fourth graders do not receive Korean.
It's mainly like juniors and seniors.
Korean 3 is the level, so we start Korean 1.
So it goes by Korean language level or the what?
Yes, the course.
It's like
So
a
the more
beginner.
advanced, the higher.
So now you're limiting to the 12th grade.
We always were talking about that group, Korean 3 and 4. It's the level, the course. I understand why it's confusing.
Yeah, it's so confusing because the original agenda was for the Korean 3 and 4. Now you changed that to 12th grade. So-
Yeah, so again though, it's the same group of children. The Korean 3 and Korean 4, it was a /3, 4. That's the class, those are the courses. That is not the students. The students are 12th graders.
Students are what grade? I'm sorry.
Seniors, 12.
Like some there's some juniors and seniors, it's like, some people that are
Thank
on the
you,
National Honor Society, and also people that are taking Korean, they're the ones going on the trip tomorrow.
Junior.
Yeah, juniors and seniors.
So it shouldn't say
There's one of
12th grade, I think in the regular portion of the meeting, we should speak to Korean 3 and 4 to be consistent with last month's meeting. Because it's not 12th
Yeah,
grade
instead of 12th
students.
grade.
Okay,
I would
so
speak to Korean 3
It
and 4
gotta be
again.
Korean 3 and 4, not the 12th grade.
Correct, I would prefer that we are going to amend that now, and
Yeah.
then in the regular meeting, when we memorialize this resolution,
Okay.
we will obviously say Korean 3 and 4.
Okay.
Thank you, very
Thank you
good
so
catch.
much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chin. Okay, other
you,
questions? If not, we'll move on to, letter Q, NJ School Board's, liaison and alternate.
I have no reports to discuss.
Okay, thank you. Let's go on. Next one is County School Board's rep and alternate. Helen Dunn.
Yeah, nothing to report?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dunn. Okay, now we are going to close the work session. And do I make a motion to close, to adjourn the work session and open the regular meeting?
I make a motion to close the work session and open the, regular meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussions?
I have a question, just very beginning in this agenda, is this special? Or what is special today?
There's nothing special about today. It's my birthday, but.
Happy birthday.
No, it's not, it's really, it's not my birthday, it's not my, a lot of typos here today. I'm sorry, it's a regular meeting. This was advertised, in January. Eliana didn't bring the cake.
Okay, any discussion? If not, let's go, all in favor?
Aye.